All right. So we've added a few different providers, but we haven't fully fleshed out the required providers section and the make sure all of them have provider blocks too. So if we're trying to do this right, let's go ahead and go back and do that. Okay. So the first one we have is I looked up the Terraform registry for TLS. Um, and you can see the version is here. So we can go ahead and add TLS. And you can see source would be HashiCorp/TLS. That makes sense. And then version is going to be 4.0.5. Okay. So GitHub Copilot is telling me to use this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and I am going to ask GitHub Copilot to explain what it's doing. Make sure I fully understand what source version I should put. All right, so the block is specifying provider configuration for the TLS provider. Providers are responsible for understanding API interactions and exposing resources. All right. The TLS provider specifically is a Terraform provider that provides resources for working with transport layer security certificates. This is useful for creating certificates for testing purposes. The source HashiCorp/TLL line is the source of the provider. In this case, the provider is sourced from HashiCorp. Version tilde little greater than symbol 4.0 line is specifying the version constraint for the provider. This symbol is a special symbol of Terraform, meaning approximately greater than. It's saying use version 4.0 or any minor version of 4.0, but not to use 5.0 or any major version updated. All right, so we are saying that we can use anything between 4 and 5, and we are at 4.05 for like the latest, so that seems like the good one to do. All right, so then let's go ahead and go down and see what other providers we are using. All right, we're using local file, so let's go ahead and look up local file, and that is another resource. You can see the version is 2.5.1. All right. So what we're going to do then is we're going to scroll up and I'm going to add that I want provider local file. And that should be good. Then let's go ahead and add this here, local file. And source, I think I'm just going to put source 2.5 and up. All right. Then let's look to see more. Do we have any other providers that we forgot? No. All right, perfect. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and test to make sure that adding those versions didn't mess anything up. So I'm going to click Terraform apply, invalid provider local name. So I'm going to also Copilot that. And so you can use Copilot for errors, and I can just say, explain what this error means. And it should tell me. I'm also going to look at my documentations. Okay, so it looks like local file is a resource from local. That makes sense. That's kind of what I suspected, but I was a little bit confused that there was because local file is the resource. I'm sure if I would have kept reading and not been lazy, that we would have seen that local is the provider. So let's check local as the provider, 2.5.1, so we should be good. All right, let's go ahead and Terraform apply again and see how we go. And all right, so it looks like it has some things 11 things to add. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, yeah, go ahead and apply that. Let's take a look. All right, so now all of our things are creating and our public instance is creating. So I'm going to go ahead and sign back into AWS. Okay, so yep, I'm into AWS. So let's go to EC2. Says we added it. So that's exciting. So here it is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to connect to it now from my terminal. All right. I'm going to pull my terminal over because it's on another screen. And then I'm going to run my chmod. Oh, well, duh, because I have to do it from in here because this is where my file is. So let's add that. Now let's SSH into, and woohoo, we did it. We SSH'd into our, what's it called? Our instance. Now, the issue with this, though, is that we don't want all IP addresses to be able to SSH into the instance. You can see here when we are setting our ingress rule, we're setting that any IP address can, and we want to instead figure out how to get our personal IP address. So over the past few days, I went and did some research and I found that we can use the HTTP provider to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this comment, and this is what we're going to work on next. Okay. So we are going to want HTTP. So I'm going to say HTTP. All right. And I'm going to let it fill in, but then I'm going to check. So that's saying 3.2.1, but let's actually go and check the latest. So this is HTTP version 3.4.2. So I'm going to put it at 3.4. All right. And then I'm going to add it here. And now we have HTTP. Okay, let's go back. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a data block. And that means that we want to get data from a provider. So what we want to do is we want to get data from the HTTP provider, and we want it to be my IP address. All right. So we need to give it a URL in order to ping, because that's essentially what HTTP is it's going to be a service that can send HTTP requests. So we're going to have URL HTTP sipinfo.io. All right. And I've already tested this and it's like not perfect. So this article wasn't perfect last time I tried it, but it is helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and bookmark it so I can share it with you. But just note that it might not do exactly what we need it to do the first time out. We might have to keep doing some searches. All right, so then I'm also going to add an output block. And the reason why I'm going to add an output block is because I want to test just that this works and that we are able to get our IP address. So if you look here, they're doing this format thing where they're adding a /32 onto it, and then they're doing data.http.ipinfo.body. So I'm going to do data.http, and then I'm going to do .myip because that's what I named that data block, and then I'm going to say .body .ip. All right, and then I'm going to actually say because this, I'm just making sure. Yeah, our security group still has the 00, so we didn't change that. So if I do Terraform apply, let me exit out of my instance and Terraform apply. All right, we have an inconsistent dependency lock file, and that's because we added a new provider. So when we add a new provider, we need to initialize our Terraform state again. All right, so now we can do Terraform apply, and let's see what issues we have. All right, so we have a warning that body is deprecated, so we might have to look into that. I did a typo, which isn't impacting things, but impacts readability. So I'm going to switch that to my IP, and then it can say that it can't access attributes on a primitive typed value string. Okay, so we're going to have to play around with this a little bit. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to ipinfo.io, the trusted source for IP address data. All right, so then I can go to docs so I can figure out how we're doing this. So here you can see that we are using auth. There's a token, and I don't have a token. So here you can see we try to automatically detect when someone wants to call our API versus view our website, and then we send back the appropriate JSON response rather than HTML. We do this based on the user agent. There are a couple ways to force a JSON response. One is to add /JSON at the end of any request. Okay, so if I do this, let me open up my Postman. You can see I already have this loaded in. So first, let's go ahead and just do get ipinfo.io. All right, you can see it's sending a request, and then it comes back with an HTML page, right? Because that's essentially what we're doing here when we type in ipinfo.io, we are getting an HTML page. But if we want to get the JSON, we have to add /JSON, and now you can see where I'm at, okay? Which I'm not sure if it's bad for me to show you my IP address or not. All right, so if you look at Postman, which is doing the same thing, we can add /JSON onto it, and then we get back the information. All right, so let's go here and we want to add the /JSON. And then we want to go ahead and apply again. All right. And we still have can't access attributes on a primitive type value string. All right, so let's go ahead and look. And if you look here, we're getting a JSON object back. And we can just do, in order to get the string, we can just do .ip. So if I just want to see the .ip, I can do this. Maybe. On 38, oh wait, unsupported attribute. Oh, .id. I'm going a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Pops tonight. I'm typing typos all over the place. All right, so now it seems like it's working better. And you can see, that oh wait, oh, because I'm getting the ID. I don't want the ID. Okay. We do want body, but why is it not? All right, so I think we'll try again, and then let's do a little bit more with our error message. All right, so I'm going to go to GitHub Copilot, and this is the good thing about GitHub Copilot is that you can use it to kind of like help you figure out what you need to Google, okay? So normally I would just Google this error, but now that I have Copilot, I can kind of throw it through there and read about it, and then it gives me more keywords to look up if Copilot doesn't make sense. So saying I'm trying to access an attribute on a primitive type value, specifically a string. In my code, I'm trying to access the IP attribute from there. However, body is a so I have to convert it. Okay, so body is a string. So I have to decode the JSON first. Okay. If the HTTP response body is a JSON object and you want to access the attribute from it, you need to first decode the JSON string into a Terraform object using JSON decode. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And see, that worked on the first go of things, which if you see, if we would have just kind of kept looking. So we want to decode that JSON response that we get back from pinging this URL. And then once we decode it, we can then look at the IP property. So didn't save it. I'm going to clear my terminal so I'm not getting confused by the different messages. And then let's take a look. All right, and now it looks like we have an IP address. So good. That is exactly what we want. Now let's go ahead and look back at, so I can go ahead and bookmark this too for you guys. Let's go ahead and look back at this now. All right, so we're getting the data and we know how to get our IP address now. So you can see that they're adding it as a CIDR block. And the way that they're adding it as a CIDR block is they have to add the subnet onto the end, okay? So basically when they're using format, they're just adding this percentage S means that this is going to go in the percentage S place. It's like a variable type of a thing, right? So you're saying like placeholder /32, and then you're saying comma, put this in my placeholder. All right. So if I go down to my security group, all right, here, instead of saying I want to be able to SSH into all places, I can say format, and then I can follow some of this. So I'm going to say %S/32, comma, and then I can go ahead and from my output block that I did, I can go ahead and take this and I can plop it in there. All right. I don't need the output block anymore because I don't need to use it. And I should hopefully be able to Terraform apply. And if not, we will read the errors and go from there. All right, so this is just saying the warning, which would be something to look into about body being deprecated. We would look into that from here. So I could look into IP info. Let me like search body, not coming up. So let's go with IP info. Body is deprecated. Right, this looks like we're getting the same error as this person. Oh, looks like we can use a different website. This guy here. All right, so is response body. So let me actually go back. And instead of doing .body, let's do response body and see if that does anything. And let's say no. I'm experimenting a lot just because I really want to understand what's going on. I make sure I like know the ins and outs. But if this is super boring, you don't have to listen to this part. Okay, so we're still getting the error because on line 119, we are still using body instead of response body. And that's actually, I was looking up IP info, but actually what we'd want to look up is HTTP body is deprecated, is my guess. So yeah, body is now deprecated and has been superseded by response body. All right, so that is how you can kind of look that up. So then let's go ahead and say, no, we don't want to apply that. And then let's say Terraform apply because we made an edit. And hopefully we won't see a warning. And we don't see a warning, so yay. So now it's modifying my security group. So let's go back over to here. Let's go to my instance. I'm going to just refresh the page and then go to security. And you can see now that we are allowing SSH traffic from my IP address. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look if we can connect to our public instance. I'm on my IP address and we can. I don't really have another computer that I can test out if I can come from a different IP address in a different area. So this is just what we're just going to be happy that it worked. And in the next video, we will start working on our private instance and our private security group. See you soon.